Hello everyone, and thank you again for joining XP Properties live at 5 with myself and Ben Richards, who's also on the call. On these weekly roundups, we talk through all the highs and lows and struggles and problem solving that we go through in all 5 of our businesses on a weekly basis. If you haven't watched previous episodes, go and have a look. But today we've got some really exciting topics to be sharing and findings that we've made in the week. So to go through them in a little bit more detail, we're kicking off. Can you change the slide? We're kicking off on the agenda with XP Finance Calculator. So when we buy a site or a development, we have a finance calculator that we use, and we'll be sharing more details on that. We'll equally be showing what is the most important thing to be looking at when you're stacking a project or a deal or a HMO, whatever it may be. The one most important thing, options. When it comes to negotiating and improving your business, options are imperative, and we'll come into more detail about what we mean by that. We've had some more consultant calls this week, so giving other people clarity. We'll be going into how we do that and who we've been working with to help businesses grow. We had the pleasure of featuring on a podcast this week, so we'll be sharing who we did that with. The Old Maltings, which is our Old Maltings house, there is an update on the tender pack. What is a tender pack? Stay tuned if you want to find out more about that. Sunset Court, our 6-unit site, 4 flats, 2 houses. There's a big update which we've been waiting for 9 months, and it's not a baby. So we'll be providing a bit more of an update on what has happened and gone on at Sunset Court. How to save tens of thousands of pounds on refinances. Little top tips. So it's fairly finance heavy this session, so I'm sure there'll be some keen developers here lucky and willing to hear more. And then EPC-Easy win, which is basically how to maybe look at how you can improve EPCs very cost effectively and efficiently. So to start off and kick off with XP's finance calculator. So we wanted to share this because interest rates are moving all over the market. I've got quoted a buy-to-let product this week with an arrangement fee of 5%. Evidently, we didn't go with that lender, but this is where the market is. I've heard that there's a lot of change via brokers and the lenders themselves. I heard that HSBC actually pulled their products from the market by some part. Now, what we do as a business is when we review comparable finance, we put it in a table so that we can see the comparable cost of the finance. That includes arrangement fee, that includes your standard interest rate, that includes exit fee, that includes early redemption charges, that includes potential extension fees, that includes default rates. Now, one thing that is quite commonly missed out and that you can see on this table is all of the consultants fees, so monitoring surveyor, quantity surveyor, valuation surveyor, whether you need any other particular surveyors to represent you in the bank on that particular product. When you get into smaller loans, these costs are really imperative to make sure you get the cheaper product. For an example, sometimes a bank with a higher rate of terms for a small HMO refurb might have a valuation surveyor that's half the price of someone else. So why aren't you looking at the soft costs that fall around that finance? So we ask all of these questions up front. You can see on this particular project, I think we had something like 10 or 12 comparable lenders that we could actually go with. And then we have comfort that we have really stress test not only the comparing the lenders and their criteria and their terms and their loan to values, but also all of their soft costs that come after that, because sometimes that can sway the lender to be more expensive than maybe a cheaper lender that's out there. So we're happy to share this table. So if you want this table, just comment XP's finance calculator, happy to share it so you can use it on your own schemes and put in the soft costs that fall around that. But this is something we do on HMOs, this is what we do on our developments, and this is how we compare finance products. And I'll be keen to hear if anyone else out there does anything like this. Unfortunately, brokers are great, and I don't want to downplay what the job that brokers do go into the market, but quite frequently we are also sometimes direct to lenders, which might come with lower arrangement fees, but might be a higher rate of cost than via a broker because we don't have total scope on the market. So this is an exercise we do via brokers or via direct and compare the whole lot, assess what's the best for us for this particular project from not only a proceedability perspective, but also a cost perspective. And one really important perspective is their process. some of the cheapest lenders out there have the worst process in the world, and we're fully aware of that. So we sometimes ask, great, their terms look good, but how is that process? So more than happy to share this. We've already got one. Andrew Durrant wants to have a look at this. Happy to share this on. We'll contact you, Andrew, and send this over to you. But anyone else out there, comment XP Finance Calculator, and we will get this over to you. Ben, any other comments on comparing finance? I know we've got a bit more coming later.
Yeah, no, I think you've covered everything. All good.
Cool. So this one is a little bit contradictory. Sorry, not contradictory, controversial to what people might think the most important thing is when stacking a deal. I want you to just sit there for a second and ask yourself the question, what is the most important thing that you look for when looking at a deal? And the reason that I say this is probably controversial is, in my opinion, the most important thing that to think about when you're stacking deals is actually your own time. Now, what do I mean by that? What's the most efficient, effective way to value your time? Because when you're analyzing and acquiring deals, it's extremely time consuming. So for me, it's all about finding the risks that are going to discount this deal and giving me my time back to look at other more viable projects. So a bit of a controversial one, but obviously the purchase price, the profitability, the location, the type of deal, the risk, how well it's marketed is a really key one. On market, off market, the upside, the potential downside. But in my opinion, the most valuable thing and the most important factor when reviewing projects is valuing your own time. You don't want to spend a week on a deal to get outbid in a process where 50 people are bidding on the site. Equally, you don't want to spend a week on something that doesn't work in its entirety. So value your time, and I can guarantee you'll get more success pushing deals through. We can speak from experience because we've acquired a property or a development every 4 weeks since we set up the company. And that is by building a process because we value our time above all of these factors.
Nice. Good stuff. And then
so this one was a bit of just a tip for any capacity of negotiating. So a few times this week this has happened, and it's for me it always drills clear. So I sit on the front end of the building and of the business, and quite frequently doing the negotiation part of the front end with the finance lenders, with the investors, and also the deal and the sellers. One thing that I would highly advise anyone out there in any negotiation situation, act as if you have an option B and compare the two, because that will motivate option A to be more aggressively down their value or forgive on the negotiation that you have. But also, if you can get an option B, it gives you a comparable. We showed on the first slide comparable finance packages. That's an example. I can negotiate one of the cheaper lenders down to the cheapest lender with those other options. So this is just a little bit of a tip for negotiation. If anyone's out there struggling to negotiate, pretend like you've got an option B or get an option B. And I can guarantee you can nurse a better negotiation situation for yourself or your business out of that situation. So as a prime example, when you're going to look at buy something, for an example, when I bought a car, I always went to view the car. Obviously the person knows I'm interested in buying it. I just said, look, I'm looking at a similar one, which is a similar price, but in much better condition. So I'm inclined to probably walk away and go and buy that car. Obviously, we knew the price had to move, and as a result, the price moved. So that's an example from more of a personal level, but this can be used in business. So if you just have one option on the table and you don't know if it's good and your negotiation positions are struggling, get a second option or a second product or something along those lines to help you push forward that prime negotiation a little bit stronger.
Very good. Top advice. Moving on to number 4. So, I mean, most people that we speak to have zero clarity on kind of where their business is going, and from a financial perspective, from the sort of 5 key elements of any business: sales, marketing, finance, operations, and sort of HR. We've been offering for the past 3 months business consultancy and sort of mentorship for both service-based businesses and property businesses, essentially. And we've got some fantastic mentees. We've got an ex-New Zealand rugby player. We've got a number of sorry, I'm being Lucas.
Ben's got a little he's our main project manager is clearly challenging him today. I think he's part dad sitting and part on the live. But yeah, we've got our mentees differ from every different type. So we actually had a planning consultant earlier that asked us to have a look at their organisation structure and see how we fit our organisation structure.
I'm
but
back
carry on
in the
Tony,
game.
talking about the mentorship side of things.
Yeah. So we've got a trio of architects, so an architecture practice run by 3 directors that have joined us, looking to take some of that profit margin that they've been building within their architectural practice and looking at really like a 10-year time horizon to start building an asset base in property. Like I mentioned, we've got an ex New Zealand rugby player that has gone into the property space and wants some guidance. Literally today, and he may even be joining us on this call. One of the planning consultants that we work with regularly wants some advice on kind of business structuring and thinking about mid to long term goals and structures within their business. And it's something we really love doing. We've kind of spent the last 6 years building businesses both in the property industry and elsewhere. So we've got a lot of experience in that. We've still got a long way to go, but fundamentally, if we can help the people that are just starting or 2 or 3 years into their business get to I don't know, sort of 7-figure revenue and 6-digit kind of profit margins, that's the sort of people that we want to help, really. So if you are interested, comment coaching below or DM us for more details. There's a page on our website called Business Coaching and Property Consultancy. If you're interested in that, do head over to that page. So this week we had a really great conversation with the Property Jam podcast, which was a little bit different. It was very much more of an informal conversation. We actually asked them questions as well as them asking us questions. We did an episode roulette, which basically we scanned through their previous episodes, stopped on one, and then we talked about that topic. And the topic was actually on kind of marriage and relationships in the sort of property industry. And it's an interesting conversation. So that's going to be dropping on Monday, which we're really looking forward to. Jack, do you have anything else to say about that one?
No, just a really good group of guys. We actually, I've known Matt for a little while, but we actually were on a stand next to them at the Property Investor Show. So it was fun to follow up off the back of that, to do a very, there was topics of derrieres and even it was very fun and very, I'd like to say uncut. It was very sort of, it felt very genuine, which I find that, Ben and I have been on a few podcasts, which Ben, I think if you tap a few buttons, we might see those in a second. Yeah. But I find that the more informal it is, hopefully the more engaging it is for the listeners. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I did bring up some of the previous either sort of YouTube videos or podcasts that we've done with other people. So My Property World, Property 118 have interviewed us about the Property Investor Awards. C-Link is a quantity surveying and construction podcast that both Jack and I have been on, called Own the Build. And I've spoken to Rion Wallard of the Business of Architecture podcast in the past about Aura and building sort of multiple streams within any business. If you go to our website, most of these podcasts are there for people to go away and listen to. Hopefully it gives you a bit of an insight into us as people and also the businesses that we've grown. So yeah, head over to that. Quick update on the Old Maltings. We've been busy bees in the background. If you've not listened to some previous weeks, we've had the external works package agreed at planning. We've submitted an enhanced class MA application to get us from 16 units to 20 units and increase our profit margin by about 700 grand. And we will be very soon submitting a full planning application for 23 units. Now that 23 units is sort of one for the future. That's really not going to be submitted until we've got the class MA application agreed and approved. So in the background, we're also working on the tender package. And this is an excerpt from the tender package that we've been working on. And I received these drawings this morning, and we plan to go out to tender at the end of this month to try and line up a contractor for August.
You gotta love it. They say never do lives with animals or children. And I think this is why. So equally, like Ben said, we've gone to tender on this. It will probably be worthwhile us sharing how we go to tender. We obviously have builders that we've used before. We also look for recommendations for builders that we haven't used before. And at the moment, and I don't know if any other developers are seeing this, we used to go to tenders like 3 or 4 parties. That's now more like 10. In the last sort of 12 months, it was pretty difficult to get builders lined up to take on projects like these. But yeah, we seem to be finding good ones nonetheless.
Yeah, it's been a difficult road. We've sent out PQQs, which is pre-qualification questionnaires, which is something I would absolutely recommend. If you're interested in seeing one of those, then let us know. But it essentially gets you all the information that you're going to need from a contractor to check that they are competent and capable of delivering, the scheme that we're working on. This is going to be, £1.5 million plus contract value. That's not just going to be Barry and his gang of builders from down the road. That's going to need a much bigger outfit. So if you're working on larger schemes, you're going to need to make sure that you've actually fully qualified the contractors that you're working with. So yeah, lots of learnings to take from that. And then on to the biggest success of this week. And after a grueling 9 months of delays, planning officer changes, issues back and forth, constant revisions and conversations with the conservation officer, we now have planning approval for the works we want to undertake on the office conversion, which is the image on the left, to include and build the recessed balconies, which give the upper level 3-bed flats access to private amenity recessed into that gabled frontage, install some roof lights in the loft, and get the daylight that we need into the 2 bedrooms and 2 shower rooms that we've got up in those roof spaces in the office conversion. So yeah, really happy to get that over the line. It was a very when you get one of those emails that is just massive relief and pressure off. So we can now remobilize our contractors on site to start constructing all of those works. It's going to take probably 3 weeks to get that fully finished, but it means that once that's done, we literally have a fully finished site, and hopefully we can start selling these units really swiftly. Which moves me on to a bit of a nod and a shout out for our site open day tomorrow, Saturday 10th of June, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you're interested in seeing this finished project, come along. We've got some snacks and some nibbles and some drinks lined up for everyone. We'll have our investment partners, our contractors, our solicitors, friends and family, all coming to see what this finished product looks like. And it should be a really good day. I think they were talking about highs of 30 degrees potentially tomorrow. So the sun will be shining. The site will be looking great. We had Loft, a company called Loft, who are a showroom furniture fit out company, install a showroom to flat 3 literally today. So hot off the press. And the flats are looking fantastic. So if you're interested in coming along, it's not too late. Just send us an email to info@xpproperty.co.uk or DM us, and it'll be good to know numbers.
Yeah, I will say that's in Princess Risborough in Buckinghamshire, so just off the M3.
M3,
40.
M1,
40.
M40, M40,
yeah.
One of the others. Yes, DM us for full details. We would love to see you there. On a similar note, because we've just finished the project, we've had we've reinvigorated our sales process. We have created some swanky sales brochures to try and generate a bit more interest to the site. These were done by our good friend Oliver James at Property Branding. If you want an intro to Oliver, DM us and we can make an intro. He's created a fantastic brochure for us. It's 30 pages of the pure benefits of what our site's about. And I was actually going to share that if I can. Where are we here?
So while Ben's finding that, just to give you a bit of an overview of why you might need some property branding and why Ollie is really good. He specializes in property, so he doesn't do any marketing or branding outside of property investment or development. So his basically avatar client is a property investor, landlord, or property developer. And it really comes through when you work with him, because he really can see and knows from previous experience what property investors and property developers need to create, the products that they need to do. So it's quite rare that people would approach a marketing company, say, make me an investment brochure, or make me a bidding deck, or make me a sales brochure. Evidently, that's quite a niche space to fall within. So he's really well sort of rounded on that aspect, specifically in property.
Can you see this, Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, good. Yeah, just thought I'd give a flick through to sort of show people the types of things that you want to include in this. So when you look at a brochure, a lot of people just go straight into the detail of here's the floor plans, here's our specification. The reality is that, yes, those things do help to sell the property, but what really sells the property is the human side of why your property is good for them. Like, these are going to be homes for people. So what you really need to do is push that sentiment into the sales brochure to tell them why they should buy in this area. What's the benefits of the local surroundings? What shopping facilities, like, how is their life going to be improved by buying one of your flats? And that's essentially what we've tried to kind of get across in these brochures. Okay.
It's probably worth saying that these images are actually CGI dressed. So all of that furniture that you can see there is not actually real. It's electronically put in.
Correct.
I think
sorry, with tech. So next point that we wanted to run through, we hope to see you, many people as we can tomorrow at the open day. It's not too late, so do get in touch.
Yeah, we've just actually
had the next point is number. Andrew's coming. Good. Saving money on your finances. So yeah, what we've been going through 2 big refinances at the moment. One's an exit bridge. Actually, well, 3, I guess, haven't we? We've got the exit bridge. We've got the refinance on the Old Maltings to a development facility. And we've got the refinance of St. Helens Mill, which is on the screen, to a longer term product. So yeah, the ways in which we've kind of saved money on these are predominantly negotiating the rates and negotiating with your broker the actual fees that you're paying. A lot of people just accept the first agreement in principle or the first terms that are provided from lenders without really questioning it or drilling into the detail. We've saved tens of thousands of pounds by actually just asking the question, is this the best you can do? Or doing what Jack said earlier in this conversation, in terms of having an A and a B to go to C and say, we've already got A and B, how can you beat this? And basically bouncing lenders off of each other. Anything else you wanted to chip in on that?
No more to add. We've obviously got a few acquisition finances arranged up, and it's a similar gig. I will be, very wary with finance. We've got a refinance going through in our social business, and the ERCs were 4% in year 1 and 3% in year 2. No, yeah, 4% in year 1, 3% in year 2. And it's worthwhile just modelling like eventualities if we pulled out in year 1 or year 2, what that actually looks like, and use the calculator to do that, because it really does help. Yeah, good.
Nice. Point number 9 is EPCs. Do you want to have a quick chat whilst I sort the tech out?
Yeah, I'll just share an easy win that I thought would be of value. I know that there's investors and developers listening on this. So we in Central Streets bought a flip in Henley-on-Thames. It's in a nice little estate, 4-bedroom house. We basically back to brick renovation, stripped it all back, made it, modernised it, put new wall in downstairs, changed layouts. Now, when we were doing the refurbishment, we don't necessarily want to attack and tackle the whole, solution of being green in a property that's already there and got its own problems. But what we did do, and you can see in the email in the bottom right, is when we met the EPC assessor there, I said, if we're close to a bracket, just let us know and let us know what we would need to do to overcome and get into the next EPC rating. When someone's buying a property, they don't look at the score in most cases. They will normally look at the grading, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'm talking from a normal layman buyer that's not in property. That tends to be what they look at. So it's a bit like schooling. If you got 51, you know, for example, if you got what is it, 69% and you got a C, that sounds a lot better than 68%, which is a D. And that's exactly what you're achieving there. So the EPC assessor came to site, did the assessment, and I said, if there's anything that we're just below in terms of grading, in all honesty, I didn't really mind what it came in at, because we're selling it as a private sale. This isn't a rental property. Everyone's aware that the government are slapping you up on where you need to be if it is a rental property. And she came back and said, if you actually just put some rock wool insulation on the in between the joists in the loft, which isn't a big job, you would actually come up a grade and be a C. Which I think is pretty good. Most new builds are A's and B's. Most old properties that are performing quite highly are C's. So we went and we sent someone out yesterday. So the EPC assessment was on Wednesday. We sent someone out yesterday to do the insulating. She's coming back on Wednesday, and we're now putting the property on market one grade higher. And I think total cost was about 700 quid, including labour and materials. So just a bit of a little like easy win, top tip. Always question your EPC assessor. What are the little improvements that you could make if it is going to bring you above a band? If we would have fell in the low bracket of D, I probably wouldn't have bothered doing anything, because it's not going to be my property. If someone's really green and wants to change things around and put PVs on the roof or air source heat pumps or whatever it may be, let them crack on. But in this instance, it was a fairly easy win for what I believe is a much more marketable EPC rating. So we went ahead and did it. So it's ready to go on the market, which will be next week.
Nice, good. I just wanted to touch on something that not a lot of people know about, that I've spoken about numerous times in the last few months. There's a lot of landlords jumping ship because of these EPC changes, given that to rent a property from, well, it was 2025, but I think they've pushed it back. But either way, there's a real push to get EPC ratings above a C. Now, that could cost you an absolute fortune. In this example, where it's already existing a G, that's a big step up to get from a G to a C. Now, there is a cost cap that the government have put on in terms of getting to that C rating. If you have to spend more than £3,500 to get to a C, you can get an exemption from the requirement to lease out your property to a tenant. So let's say you've spent £3,500 by replacing all LED lighting, you've installed the insulation into the loft, like Jack says, you've maybe installed some insulation to the floor joists, and actually to then get anything further than that above the £3,500, i.e. a set of solar panels is going to cost you £8,000. Well, you've already spent £3,500, which is the cost cap that the government expects you to pay. So once you've spent the £3,500, you've provided quotes to show that getting any higher than that will cost you more than that. You send that information off to the PRS and the government body that regulate this, and they will very, very quickly put your property on the domestic private rented property PRS platform to show that there is a exemption on that property for 5 years. After those 5 years, you then have to potentially spend you have to spend another £3,500 to maybe get you up to the next level, for example. But by 5 years' time, I honestly think the whole EPC rating and the process will completely change. So not a lot of people know this. There's a lot of landlords jumping ship because they don't want to spend loads of money on their property, thinking they've got to spend 20-25 grand to actually, wholeheartedly go and insulate the whole fabric of the building, new boilers, new solar panels, this sort of stuff. It's just not the case. As long as you're spending up to £3,500 improving as much as you possibly can do, you can get an exemption on it. So I think there'll be lots of opportunity here for tired landlords selling up because of this fact, not knowing that they don't have to spend as much as they think they can. So if you can come in, spend the £3,500, get an exemption whilst improving the property, you are going to be well placed to profit from that. So another note on tomorrow's site open day, I have put the address on the screen. So it's Sunset Court, High Street, Princess Risborough, HP27 0AX. Would really love to see, as many people there as possible. It should be a really good day. We have a couple of TV screens with slideshows of the progress throughout the project. So showing the construction site photos and even a time-lapse video of the new builds, which we had running throughout the construction period. We're going to be talking about how we structured it, how we funded it, how we found it, what the planning process looked like, and basically everything about the scheme, with full Q&A for any questions that people may have. So if you're interested, email us, drop us a DM. We'd love to see you there between 10 and 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, make sure you do RSVP, because we are buying drinks and food for everyone. So we want to make sure that we have enough for you if you come along. Feel free to bring on any stragglers that wanted to be out and some doing something else and you wanted to come to site. So any friends or family of yourselves that if you want to come and have a look.
Yep. And that's it from me. Anything from you?
No, all good from me.
Good. Well, enjoy the Friday evening sun. Hope to see you next week, and drop any questions in the comments below if you have any. Cheers.
We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.